Do your fish treat your live plants like an all-you-can-eat buffet? Hmm. I've tried live plants. They don't do well in my tank. Constantly replacing half-eaten greenery, and we're going to take a look at setting your tank up with fake plants and some things you can do to put some live plants in your tank that aren't necessarily in your tank. Let's talk about it.
Get strong.
Now, some of you might ask, why? Why do fake plants? Why not just do live plants? Because of all the benefits, of course. Well, if you keep cichlids, especially severums and a bunch of other cichlids, even my vieja, they like to eat plants. A lot of cichlids like plants. So oftentimes you find yourself with maybe the plants living for a little while, and then just out of nowhere, out of the blue, you come home to just a stalk, or not even a stalk. Plant's just gone. Um, so while live plants create this beautiful natural environment, they're not much for cichlids. Even goldfish will eat plants. Silver dollars, I mean, you name it. Flake plants, they offer that same aesthetic, but without being eaten. So there's no risk of the eating. They're low maintenance. I mean, you don't need the CO2. You don't need the fertilizer. You don't need the substrate. Although there are plants that will grow in almost any substrate. But if you wanted a bare bottom tank, obviously plants become more difficult. Obviously, you can put some plants on driftwood, but it becomes difficult. With the fake plants, there's just no risk of anything being eaten, and obviously they're durable, they're reusable. You can take them out of your tank if you get tired of them, put them away, and then at some point you may want to break them out again and just change the look of the tank. Not something you can do with live plants. Live plants, obviously you got the constant damage, you got the mess from the shredded leaves just being all over the tank. And they're expensive to replace, and sometimes you bring home pest snails. Maybe you don't want snails in your tank. Some people like the look of snails in their tank, but maybe you don't want them. So you don't have to worry about necessarily having so many outbreaks. I do have one tank that has some live plants, or had live plants in it, and yeah, I had a snail outbreak. God knows where the snails came from. Never saw them in the bag with it, but maybe there's some eggs someplace. I don't know, but I definitely had a snail outbreak. Now, with fake plants, you've got a lot of different type. You've obviously got your plastic, absolutely horrible looking, crazy colored plastic plants. I like the plastic plants, and often they're cheap. And when you're just starting out, you gravitate to those because you want them. You want some plants, and you want some greenery in your tank. So you buy these absolutely horrible looking plants, of which I have a few in my tank, which isn't great, but I do have a few. Another reason I don't like them is they're hard. If you rub your hand against them, they just feel terrible. And I gotta imagine my fish don't like them much either. I would imagine they go, why does he have this barbed wire, this green barbed wire in the tank? Because that's what they probably feel like, green barbed wire. Um, Silk plants I like, but severums even will try to eat silk plants. They're not using their nose. I think they just see green and bite. They go, oh, that's green. Let me try it out. Because I've had uh, fake plants get shredded, especially the silk ones. Now the silk ones I really do like because they free flow in the water, and they just have more movement that's more akin to real plants. That flowing movement you know, in the tank is more realistic with the silk plants, but they have a tendency to shred more often. They're also softer. Instead of feeling like barbed wire, probably feels like a silk satin pillow, or robe against their fins. You know, so I feel like I'm giving them something when I do silk plants, even if they're not as durable as some of the fake plants that are plastic. Um, I've not tried floating fake plants, although I've tried duckweed. They even eat duckweed. Jeez. Uh, Gummy grass. Some fish like floating plants because they like the shade. They like to hide under the shade, and it's part of their natural habitat. I'm not too worried about floating plants, but I'm sure they've got fake floating plants. I've had plants here where some of the leaves come off and they float up top. Matter of fact, look at that. There's a piece that has come off that is floating by as we talk. Is that editing, or is that just luck? It's probably luck. But setting up fake plants. Obviously, the first thing you have to do when you have fake plants is wash them. You bring them home, you wash them. I like to wash mines, and then tap water, and then I'll wash them in some tank water. And sometimes I'll even let them sit for a day or two in some tank water, and just to make sure that they're clean, and I've rinsed any possible chemicals off. I try to arrange them different ways. It's really hard to say what's going to be the right way to arrange plants in a tank. It has to be your own aesthetic. The only problem sometimes with fake greenery is they can be too green. They can just be really, really like, oh my God, what type of green is this? This is almost like neon green. And then some look very good. I have been very impressed with some of the fake plants that have been coming out. As technology has gotten better, material handling has gotten better. They've come up with fake plants that are not plastic and are not silk. There are other materials and even super thin plastic that has this weird movement to it that mimics leaves and things like that. So they've gotten really good with some of the fake plants, and some of the greenery they've tamed it down a little bit as not being too green. Although there's certain types of mosses and grasses that are pretty green, even the real ones. So I like to mix and match, and I like to arrange them different ways. Some people will like to arrange them by height. They put the tall ones in the back, short ones in the front. If you're trying to go for depth, especially with deep tanks. I don't. I don't have a deep tank right now, so I arrange them how I see fit. And some tanks look better than others because, let's face it, they are not cheap. Some of the plants that I have been able to pick up from PetSmart have been relatively pricey, and pricing is relative. I know some of you are rich. Pricing being, you might find a plant that's just a few dollars, and you might find one that's 25, 30, 40 bucks. It really depends. This purple plant, I love this thing, but it was not cheap. It was close to $30 for this one plant. And but it looks good. I really like it. It does develop a lot of algae on it, and brown algae, and it can look pretty bad, but it cleans easily. And I'll take it out and I'll just scrub it with the same with a sponge pad. I'll just scrub it, and it comes back clean, and I put it back in. But I actually don't mind that it grows stuff on it because I think it makes it look a little bit more real. But that's just me. So you have that. You add your rocks, your driftwood, all of those things add for realism. I don't like, even though this is kind of bright, the purple. For some reason, I just really liked the purple. I've seen people with the orange plants, and I've seen people with the super red plants and purple plants. That is a little bit too much for me. Just like people, there's obviously a market for glowfish, but not my cup of tea. I don't like glowfish. Now let's talk about, I've picked up some plants of late. You've probably seen them in the thumbnail. Like this one from Topfin. PetSmart. I think it's a pretty good looking plant. There's better ones online. You go to Etsy and you can find some really nice looking plants. So I'm going to be ordering some plants from Etsy, and once I order them, I'll do another video talking about that order, and just to beautify some of my tanks. But I think this is a good looking plant. It's got a really good feel. Let me get that a little closer. It's almost like a paper, but as you can see, it really moves very well. And to me, PetSmart has been doing a good job of getting plants that people really want, that look a lot more real. And they also have some of the more generic looking plants. Then this thing was interesting to me. I mean, it's really soft. This is really soft, and it looks real. It looks very real. And I don't know how it's going to stand up to the test of time. I'm going to be adding it to the tank behind me. But if you buy a bunch of these and make like a little field that the fish can swim in and out of, I mean, this is really soft. It's really hard to let you know. But as you can see how easily that moves, it's really soft. And I added some moss-looking plant to my tank. It doesn't look as good as I would like it to look. I put it on one of the logs, and it's not as nice looking as I would like it to look. But you know what? It wasn't bad. I think I paid $7. Matter of fact, I have the sticker here. I paid $7.49 for that, and it's called Underwater Treasure. And I got that from one of our local pet stores, along with some of the other plants in here I got from a local pet store. These tall plants behind me that look like bushes of grass, I got those from PetSmart as well. They weren't very expensive, less than $12. And less than $14. I think they were like 12 and some change. But good plants nonetheless. And even if it's a slow build, or if you just want to take $100 and really buy a nice assortment of plants, you can get away with a pretty decent looking system of plants. Now, if you want some real plants in your tank, you can probably see above me, I've got a pothos plant right there. It's a pretty good sized plant. I had some in the water, and they went after them. Every so often they would find the roots and pull the whole plant down into the water. So one thing I have been doing is using these breeder boxes that you can get at most pet stores. You can set these up in the back of the tank, and you can put plants in them, and the fish can't get to them, but they're in the water column. Because we know that plants help to lower a lot of nitrates, and they help make your water a lot better. It even cuts down on algae growth and things of that nature, because those plants take all of that stuff that the algae would use to grow out of the tank. And you can get, because this box is pretty good size, you can get a lot of plant in this box. You can even set up a couple of these. And these were not expensive. They were $7, $8, at my local pet store. I'm not sure what they cost online. I'm not that advanced yet where I have links down at the bottom, because to be honest, I don't think any of you guys would use the links. But those are some things you can do in your tank to have live plants along with your fake plants. So, fake plants, I've grown to like them. I really have. So, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. I'm really trying to build the subscribers up, and it'd be, awesome if you didn't just view it and you liked it as well. And not just liked it, but if you subscribe. I mean, what's it gonna hurt? Doesn't hurt anybody, right? But subscribe, push the button. Until later, bye.
Be strong. Be strong.